In this video we're going to tie a little bonefish fly called the Bonefish Puff. It's a classic bonefish fly, probably one of the first few bonefish flies ever invented. We're going to take our thread so it's about a hook eye's length away from the hook eye. We're going to tie in a pair of medium bead chain eyes. If you're tying a larger puff, you can also use large bead chain. This fly is generally tied fairly small, either a 4, 6, or an 8. Once I get those eyes secure, I found that it's actually easiest to invert the fly for the next few steps. We're going to tie in a little bit of white calf tail hair, and we just give it a quick rough stack in our hair stacker. It doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to kind of roughly get the tips even. And you got to be careful on this fly not to overdo it. The puff is meant to be a pretty subtle and sparsely tied fly, so you just want a little piece of calf tail hair that's about the quarter of a diameter of a pencil. And we're going to tie it in so that it's about the length of the entire body, and so that it just kind of roughly reaches past the point or the bend of the hook. And then I'm going to take a nice loose wrap and then bite down. And before I do too many more wraps, I'm actually going to take my thread, I'm going to jump in front of the eyes, I'm going to place a couple of X wraps. And the reason for that is I don't want to go too far back onto the bare shank of the hook. That is meant to stay bare, and I do not want to place a bunch of thread wraps back onto the fly. So at this point you can just get in here with your scissors as close as you can and trim out any of the butt ends. It doesn't have to look real pretty at this point. We're going to cover up most of this work with the finish head of the fly at the end. So you just want to make sure you trim out any fibers away from the eye of the hook. You don't want them covering the eye of the hook in any way. Then I'm going to take my thread and just kind of cover that up as much as I can. Then I'm going to take a couple strands of Krystal flash, and I'm going to lay them on each side of the hook. If you like lots of flash, you can add a couple more than just 2. I would add up to 4 on each side, and that's plenty. I usually tie mine a little more sparse with just 2 on each side. I do like mine to kind of angle upward slightly. Now we're ready for the next material, but before we do that I'm just going to trim the Krystal flash so that it's just a hair longer than the calf tail that we tied in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a grizzly feather, and if you get a grizzly feather that has a curve in it, see it has a little bit of a curve. A lot of times I can take a little bit of it out just by taking my finger and firmly pulling on the feather in the opposite way, and I can straighten it out. So if you get one that has a little bit of a curve, you can just kind of force it out by pulling with the fibers to straighten it out. And we're going to tie these feathers in so that they run along the side of the fly, and you want them to reach past the calf tail about a half an inch to a quarter of an inch. And I just strip out some of the stem once I've measured out my length. Strip out some of those barbs away from the stem. We're going to tie these in so that the feathers face each other. You want them to be nice and flat and perpendicular to the side of the fly. This can be probably the most tricky part of the fly, and if you get one that rolls and won't cooperate with you, sometimes you can just take it and try it on the other side, or you can just get a new feather altogether. A lot of times that'll kind of fix the problem. I just take them, pinch them into place, bite down. This one is fighting me pretty good. Never fails when I film a video. I get a feather that won't cooperate. we'll call it good. I'm a little bit more of a perfectionist when I'm tying them for myself. And once you get your feathers tied in, we can trim the butt ends. Make sure they're secure. And we're going to take our head material, which is just some fine shrimp pink woolly bugger chenille. I'm going to tie it in on the near side, or on my side, near the back of the head. I'm going to take my thread forward. In the next step, we're going to take all of our calf tail and material, and we're going to pull it up and out of the way. I'm going to take my chenille, I'm going to do a nice tight wrap right behind all of it. This is going to prop the material up and away from the shank of the hook. Then I can take the material and work my way forward, wrapping it around the eyes. And what I'm trying to do is build up a ball with the chenille. Try not to cover up your eyes if you can help it. It helps to turn your vise every once in a while to make sure that you're getting that ball shape as much as you can. Once you have the ball created, you can take your chenille and capture it. Right up here at the eye of the hook. You can trim it out of the way. And then you can whip finish. And you can see that the tails splay away from each other, so as you strip this fly, the tails will pulse together as it's stripped, kind of tricking those bonefish into taking your fly. Looks like a little shrimp or a small bait fish. And then at the end, sometimes the chenille still looks like a rope. What I can do is just kind of work it with my fingers a little bit and work it together to kind of make it look more like a ball. And the fly will sit just like so in the water. It's kind of hard for me to balance it on my hand, but it'll sit just like so with those hackle tips sticking straight up, looking like a little shrimp or a crab. But great bonefish fly. This is how it was originally tied, with the pink. But you can tie it in other colors. You can tie it in chartreuse, orange, sand colored, kind of a tan color. You can really do whatever you want, but very effective fly. It still catches a lot of bonefish to this day. You don't want to leave home without it if you're going to Mexico or the Bahamas. And you can get all the materials to tie the fly on our website, intheriffle.com.